unit in chemistry is going to focus on matter and its interactions. So the first big question is, what is matter? So matter is any substance that has mass and takes up space. Literally any substance. When describing matter, we use the term properties. So what is a property? A property is just an observable characteristic of a substance. And we group properties into two main categories. So we have physical and chemical properties. A physical property is an aspect of matter that can be observed or measured without changing it. So if you are looking at a shirt, maybe your example would be, my shirt is red. That's a color, that's a physical property. You can say that the water in your cup is a liquid. So phases of matter are also physical properties. So are temperature, texture, etc. Then we have what we call chemical properties. So those get a little bit more complicated. A chemical property is the ability of a substance to participate in a chemical reaction. It's essentially its ability to undergo change, and chemical properties can tell us the substance's identity. So what exactly are we working with? So some chemical properties would be reactivity. Certain metals are super reactive when exposed to air or water. If something can catch on fire or not, or how acidic a substance is, or how basic a substance is, are also examples of chemical properties. Now we can take those physical properties and we can break them down into even two smaller categories. So we have what we call intensive and extensive properties. So an extensive property depends on how much matter you have. So this is a property that's going to change if you have, say, 1 grain or an entire package of grains. Or if you have a drop versus a gallon. These are properties that change based on how much you have. An intensive property, however, is a property that does not depend on how much matter you have. It's something that's going to be the same regardless. So we're going to look at a couple of examples for each of these. So an extensive property is something like mass or weight. So this is always a big question. A lot of people use these words interchangeably. So what is the difference? So mass is the amount of matter or stuff, for lack of a better word, that is in a sample. Whereas weight is mass with the pull of gravity. So these are things that will differ if I put 1 grain of salt on a balance or if I put an entire cup of salt on a balance. The mass of that substance and the weight of that substance are both going to change. Volume is another one, because volume is the amount of space that an object or matter takes up. So if I have a drop of water, I have an entire gallon of water, those are going to take up very different amounts of space. An intensive property is something like density. So density is the measure of the amount of mass per unit volume. So water, for example, has a density of 1 gram per milliliter or 1 gram per centimeter cubed. No matter how much water you have, it's still going to have the same density. Just like the freezing point or boiling point are also intensive properties. Water, for example, again, because it's the basic of the metric system, has a freezing point of 0 degrees Celsius and a boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius. Those are numbers that are not going to change no matter how much of the substance that you have.